Hi guys, it's Mama Bear to Many. Um, it's kind of dark up here where I'm at. I wanted to talk to you about something that was rather serious because it needs to get out there. Um, at the same time, it's really a hard subject to talk about. So, my son went to be with the Lord February 9th of this past year. And I am so thankful that he knew the Lord. I am so thankful that he had a very close walk with the Lord. Very close walk. If you have ever, if you know me, you may know that he had a YouTube channel. His YouTube channel was Sitting with Hope. He named his channel because he was a quadriplegic. He had Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And so he just chose. I was listening to Nick Vujicic last night and just choosing that joy in Christ every day of his life. That's what he did. He chose joy. He rarely complained, and and I knew that he was in pain a lot of times. I knew that he was uncomfortable. I knew that his heart was hurting. There's some times that I would find him because he couldn't move, too much. He could just move like his head and he could move his hands like this. And I would find him in bed at night crying. And I would go to him and say, I'm just crying out to the Lord. I just need to cry out to the Lord, Mom. He was faithful. He made this song that was called Well Done. And I don't even know the whole song because before he lost the ability to, God used him in music. And he wrote this song and it was called Well Done. And part of the song is, well done, you good and faithful one. And I feel like that's what God said to him. Okay. It's hard because we don't have him here on earth. It's also hard for me. Most of my family, not immediate family, but most of my broader family are not Christians. And it's hard not to know that your child or your spouse or your grandparents or whoever it is, it's really hard when that person dies if you don't know that they knew Christ as their Savior. It hurts a Christian to the depths of their heart. So in that manner, it's really hard. It's really a struggle. What I wanted to go over today was what happened. I want to kind of give his testimony before his death and what bothers me the most now. And the fact that some of this I can say, but I have to kind of say around a circle in order for this to be published on YouTube is unfortunate because of the way things are. In 2020, something happened, and in 2022, when he passed away, things were still happening. We live in a state with really strong regulations and very strong rules. So, right before he got sick, he had like a stomach bug along with the other kids that had like a stomach bug about 3 weeks prior, and I had it really bad. I was pregnant. I had it really bad and I had like extreme pain in my stomach. It was just like it hurt like really bad. And a couple of the other kids did too. It just hurt really bad. And then we ended up being sick for a few days and then we got better. Well, about 3 weeks, he had that same stomach thing like the day after or a couple days after a couple of the kids had it. So he had it at nighttime and he was in pain, but he wasn't throwing up. And I asked him, do you want to go to the ER? Like, and he's like, no. And then later on that night, I asked again, like, do you want to go to the ER? And he's like, no, he's like, I think I'm okay. I feel like I just have to go to the bathroom, like go poop. And so I said, okay. So the next morning, fast forward, he felt better. He wanted to eat. He wanted to drink. He was good. He went to the bathroom. He felt better. Okay. Now we're all planning for this trip. We decided to make this trip. We bought a camper last fall. So what happened in 2020? He used to go to a camp for 1 week a year. He would go to, it was all a disability camp. And he got to do a bunch of things like at this disability camp. Well, they shut it down after 2020. And we decided 2021 that we were just going to buy a handicap camper and whatever. We want to be a family. We want to do this together as a family. So we went on 2 camping trips with Bobby, and we had a really nice time going on those camping trips. One of them was on the easternmost point of the United States at a campground, and he just like, there's one picture and he's just like leaned back in his wheelchair, like sitting by the ocean, and he's just totally enjoying himself. The kids are like down this little cliff, like playing on the beach, and he was just like enjoying the sun and whatever. And this guy came over to the back of there, and he's like, why would you even bother? Like, why would you bother taking somebody in a wheelchair camping? And to us, it was like, he's our son. We saw the wheelchair obviously, but like, it's still your child. Like, you still want your child to have those same sort of memories as your other children do. You want them to have good, fond memories of their life. You want to just be able to give that to them. So after this, fast forward, so we have this camper and truck to bring the camper. We decided that we were going to make a trip in February. We decided that we were going to make a trip, and then somebody had offered us to spend some time timeshare at their timeshare in the same place that we were going. So we were going to go to Florida, and they were offered us some time at a timeshare in Kissimmee. So we planned on leaving the Monday. I don't know what date that would have been. It would have been the 7th, I think it was. We planned on leaving Monday the 7th. Maybe the dates are wrong, but I'm not quite sure. I'm just counting back because I think that he died on a Wednesday. So Tuesday, Monday, that Monday I think was the 7th. So we planned on going on the 7th. Well, that week before, he started off just like he had heart palpitations. And so we're like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, tried to talk to him and whatever. So we brought him down to the emergency room. And the emergency room checked him out and said he had no issues at all. He was fine. They thought that maybe he had a little bit of anxiety for the coming trip. So that was on the Monday before we were supposed to go. So 1 week before we were supposed to go. So on that Tuesday, he still was having some issues. And I called his regular doctor it's a neurologist that deals specifically with muscular dystrophy. He sees tons of patients. And I talked to the nurse there at the muscular dystrophy clinic. And I asked them, what's going on? Should I try to bring him in? In the meantime, our big van that had the handicap lift actually was at the shop getting its brakes redone for our trip that was coming up. So all of these trips, like the first trip to the ER, we actually had to lift him into a seat and use a Hoya lift. And it was really quite like an extensive like transfer. So the doctor had recommended that I got an appointment on Tuesday, had recommended that I get an appointment with our regular doctor and get him checked out, and to have them check to make sure he didn't have like a UTI or something like that, because sometimes those types of infections can cause more stress on the system and can cause more anxiety. He was just coming up with some weird things like, I'm afraid if I can't go to the bathroom, then I'm not gonna be able to go on the trip. Like, random things like that, he would say. And so we just tried to, like, reassure him that we would make sure that there was a bathroom at all times, and we would make sure that he had what he needed. Like, that we were going to have the camper, we were going to have his toilet, we were gonna pack these things. I, like, made out a list so he would know, like, everything that I had that I'm gonna pack, and I would check off the list, like, just to, like, reassure him that things were gonna be okay, to try to help him out. So, I called the doctors Tuesday right after I got off the phone with them, and they set me an appointment for Thursday. And I said, okay. Well, on Wednesday afternoon, he started like being kind of like spacey lost. And so I asked somebody um, to come over to the house and asked what they thought of things. My husband was gone that day, and I asked what they thought of things, and they said, yeah, it seems like it's probably anxiety. Um, Unfortunately, I wish that I like took more time, obviously, that week to spend with him, but I was like trying to pack and plan this trip for 14 people, to go on, and well, 15, well, yeah, 14 people to go on. And so I was pregnant. And so he kept like following me and a couple people like around the house. And then so he was unable to play. He used to like playing chess with like the kids, and he totally like he was playing chess, and then like his brain didn't even remember he was playing chess, almost like dementia, and he like drove his um wheelchair backwards and then like left the room. And then like he would be like not standing next to me, but he would be like next to me, but not saying anything. And then he would come up to me, and then he'd ask for me to pray for him. And I'll be honest, sometimes I prayed for him, and then sometimes I said, I'll pray for you later, Bob. I will pray for you. And I'm sad that I didn't take that time right then. But as a mom trying to pack things, you don't know until like hindsight, right? You're trying to pack for all these people to make sure like everything's sorry, we had cold. Make sure everything is like going okay for you to have a good trip, and make sure everything is there, and make sure all his equipment's there and stuff. So on Thursday, um, we went to the doctor's appointment, and she ran all this blood work and everything. And I said, and she's like, she talked to him a little bit, but she didn't talk to him very much. And she's like, yeah, it's probably anxiety. And I said, I'm really concerned with this, like loss of memory and stuff. She says, yeah, that could happen. So we kind of convinced him that it might be a good idea to get on like an anti-anxiety medicine. So, now this whole week he hasn't had a fever, he hasn't had like any cold symptoms, like he's not sick like at all, like he's not sick, he doesn't have any sort of like stomach issues, like anything going on. So except a couple of times he said he felt like if he couldn't poop then he couldn't go, which didn't really make sense, but his brain was kind of like swishy-washy. So it was a really hectic week because there was so many things that we were also trying to get done before we went. So let's see. That was Thursday. So she said that she would call me Friday and let me know what the results were. They knew that we were going on vacation. And she said, yeah, you're fine to go on vacation. You're good. He's okay. It's just anxiety. It will, once he probably gets going, then he'll be better. And it's like, okay. So we keep going on with life. And Friday, he was kind of off still, and he was tired. And then he said either Thursday or Friday, he said, I feel like if I can't poop, then I'm gonna die. And I was like, I mean, if your child came up to you and said that, what would you say? I was like, you're okay. And I just tried to reassure him that he was okay and that he had pooped. And but that's what he had said. And meanwhile, he has like no symptoms of anything. He's not sick. He doesn't have even the slightest fever. But the confusion is there. So we Friday she calls, it's snowing outside now. She calls and she says, well, he um he has elevated liver enzymes, but that's okay. I'll call you something in and you can just pick it up. Let me know like where you'll be able to pick it up because it probably won't go in until Monday. And so I was like, okay, what else? Should I be concerned with anything or whatever? Oh no, it's just higher liver enzymes, but I do want to get this other test to make sure that he didn't have. I honestly forget now what it was. Yeah, I forget. She just wanted to run like one more test, and we could run that test when we were like at some place that we could run a test, but to continue with our trip and we're good. This is Friday. So me, being natural mama, goes and starts to brew some tea that would help with your liver, right? Like dandelion and like some cleansing herbs and whatever. So I was brewing some tea, milk thistle. I was brewing some tea. My son had come and said Bobby really didn't want to eat supper. And so I was brewing this tea and I went to go give him his tea. And I go in there and he was unresponsive. And I was like, no, what's going on? Like, this can't be happening. So I'm like shaking his shoulders and he's still unresponsive. And I'm like shaking him and just saying, Bobby, Bobby, and trying to get him to wake up. And he wasn't waking up. So immediately I'm like yelling to the kids to go get dad, and they're like goofing off in the dining room. And I'm like, go get dad now. He was out on the tractor plowing because we were like in the middle of a blizzard. So I got the phone, I called 911. I'm trying to like get Bobby, like I could see that he was still like breathing. And but he was totally unresponsive. So then I'm thinking in my head, like, this is what it's going to be like when Bobby dies. This is horrible. This is what it's going to be like when Bobby dies. And so I'm putting his pants on and like getting him ready to go, talking to the lady on 911. And finally, I'm having kids like shovel off like the ramp and the deck and everything because we're in a blizzard. And I'm trying to get him to respond. And my husband comes in and he's like, Bobby! He's like screaming at him. And he just looks at us and he looks at us and he's not able to say anything, but his eyes were open. And I'm like trying to get him dressed and I'm trying to explain, like, you're not doing good. We're going to need to bring you to the ER. I'm putting his pants on and everything. And we're getting him just ready. And the ambulance comes in and they bring a stretcher in. Well, at first they didn't. They're just like, is this normal for him? And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, my son is like half dead. Is this normal? No, it's not freaking normal. But so they say, do you want, the ambulance asked me, do you want us to take him? I'm like, this is not normal. He was not like this even earlier today. Like, oh, so you want us to take him? Yes, I want you to take him to the emergency room. So we get him all situated. and on the stretcher and all this type of stuff. Me and my husband like moved him, whatever. They're like getting him all strapped up and all that type of stuff. And as that's happening, I'm like, Bobby. And he just says, he looks right at me and he's like, together. And I'm like, together what? And he's like, together